Donald Trump, a man who has lived inside Secret Service protection for decades, stood inside Beijing's Great Hall of the People in November 2017, looked around, and was genuinely stunned. Not by the gold, not by the banquets, by the soldiers, by the silence, by a machine so controlled it didn't feel like a country, it felt like a weapon. He later told reporters, "I never saw so many soldiers all the same height, exactly the same height, within a quarter of an inch. I said, if they put their helmets down, you could have played pool on the top of their heads." That was just what he could see. What he couldn't see, the layers underneath, the systems running in the background, the invisible architecture wrapping itself around every second of Xi Jinping's existence, that is the part that would have really shaken him. And that is exactly what we are pulling apart today. Because this isn't just a story about bodyguards and bulletproof glass. This is a story about power so paranoid it rewrites the weather. A security apparatus so total it monitors not just threats from outside, but threats from the very people sworn to protect him. And it all begins, as it always does, not with iron, but with information. Before Xi Jinping sets foot in any room, that room has already been transformed. Not decorated. Not secured. Transformed. Every face expected to be present has been cross-referenced against China's National Facial Recognition Database, a system that Chinese state media claimed by 2018 could identify any of the country's 1.4 billion citizens in under 1 second. Whether that is precisely true or strategically exaggerated almost doesn't matter. German journalist Kai Strittmatter, who spent 3 decades studying China from the inside, put it best: it doesn't matter whether it's true or not, as long as people believe it. And that is the first layer of Xi's security. Not a wall, but a belief. The belief that you are always seen. That you were already seen before you arrived. At the center of all of this is the Central Security Bureau, operating quietly out of Zhongnanhai under the direct authority of the General Office of the Chinese Communist Party. It answers to no ministry. No civilian body. Its mandate is the personal protection of the Politburo Standing Committee, which means its most obsessively maintained function is the safety of one man. But what makes this bureau unlike any equivalent in the world is what it does that no one else admits to doing. It doesn't just guard Xi from the outside. It watches everyone on the inside too. Every security detail assigned to other senior officials reports back to the bureau first. They are, in the words of one analysis, the eyes and ears of the top leader monitoring other officials' actions. The protectors are themselves watched. The watchers have watchers. And at the center of that hall of mirrors sits Xi Jinping, the only one with a clear view in every direction. Now here is something most people don't consider when they imagine the security around a world leader. Trump's Secret Service is elite, battle-tested. But when Trump arrived in Beijing in 2017, his people walked through Chinese space. And Chinese space does not bend for visitors, not even for American presidents. On November 9th, as Trump's delegation entered the Great Hall of the People, Chinese security officials moved to block a U.S. military aide carrying the nuclear football. The briefcase containing the emergency codes that allow the president to authorize a nuclear strike. The aide is supposed to stay within arm's reach of the president at all times. It is a protocol so non-negotiable it has never been violated in the history of American presidential travel. Until Beijing. White House Chief of Staff John Kelly, a retired Marine Corps general, rushed over. "We're moving in," he said. The Americans moved. A Chinese official grabbed Kelly by the arm. Kelly shoved the hand off. A Secret Service agent grabbed that Chinese official and brought him to the ground. The whole thing lasted seconds. The Chinese security chief apologized afterward. But the moment had already said everything. In Xi Jinping's world, even the nuclear football has to ask permission. If you have ever felt like the rules are enforced on some and invisible to others, what you're watching today is the most extreme version of that truth that has ever existed on Earth. The people who make the rules live inside a different reality. If that bothers you, and it should, subscribe right now. Because every week, we pull back the curtain on the world that power actually lives in. Not the version they show on the news. The real one. Xi Jinping's primary base is Zhongnanhai, hidden behind centuries-old red ochre walls in the heart of Beijing, directly next to the Forbidden City. The compound is closed to the public. Its interior is censored on Chinese digital maps. So, classified is the layout inside that when Beijing's tallest skyscraper, the 528-meter China Zun Tower, was completed 6 kilometers away. National security authorities expropriated the building's top 3 floors. The reason, on a clear day, the entire Zhongnanhai compound, including the daily movements of Xi and other top leaders, could be seen from the top with high-end telescopes. So the state simply took the floors. Because if a building can see inside Xi's world, the building belongs to the state. Underground, it goes deeper still. Satellite imagery analyzed by defense researchers shows a partially underground military complex under construction 20 to 30 kilometers southwest of Beijing, expected to be operational by 2027. Deep excavation pits, interlaced tunnels, hardened bunkers designed to protect China's leadership from AI-enabled targeting, strategic bombardment, and nuclear strike. It is being built as the successor to the Western Hills Underground Command Compound, which was itself never supposed to be publicly known. They built a replacement for the secret before most people learned the secret existed. And then there is the sky. Before any major public event involving Xi Jinping, China's weather modification apparatus goes to work. Cloud-seeding rockets carrying silver iodide are fired into the atmosphere in the hours before the event, triggering artificial rain that scrubs particulate pollution from the air. This produced what locals called APEC Blue at the 2014 Beijing Summit, Parade Blue in 2015, and in 2021. A Tsinghua University study confirmed the same operation cleared the sky above Tiananmen Square for the Communist Party's centenary celebration. Residents of Beijing reported watching the rockets being fired the night before. The rain came. The sky cleared. And Xi Jinping stood on the rostrum of Tiananmen, beneath engineered weather, and spoke of China's future. China employs over 37,000 people in weather modification, more than any nation on Earth. When Xi appears in public, nature is not left to chance. Nature is a managed variable. But what no amount of surveillance or seeding can neutralize is the threat from within. And Xi knows this better than anyone. The history of Communist China is a history of leaders destroyed not by foreign enemies, but by people who once stood in the same room. In 2023, just before the 20th Party Congress, Zhou expanded the Ministry of Public Security's authority to monitor the Politburo Standing Committee itself, the 6 other most powerful people in China. The men who sit closest to him in every photograph. He put them under surveillance. Not because they had done anything. Because they could. Because proximity to power is proximity to its removal. At China's annual legislative meetings in 2026, a video captured a 20-step protocol deployed simply to prepare Xi Jinping's chair before he sat in it. 3 soldiers. 20 steps. A chair. And on his desk, unlike every other delegate in the room, there were 2 teacups. One holding tea. One believed to hold pre-screened herbal medicine. Nobody else had 2 cups. Nobody else required 20 steps and 3 soldiers to take a seat. The moment that most viscerally captured his world came in December 2025. Xi and his wife stood in a reception hall, waiting for French President Macron to approach. An aide hurried to Xi's side and crouched at his feet. Xi showed no reaction, no surprise, no gesture of thanks. The act had become routine. Sharp-eyed viewers then noticed the aide's jacket had fallen open, revealing a holstered firearm. This was not a servant. This was one of Xi Jinping's armed personal security agents, kneeling at the feet of a man who had publicly boasted about swimming 1,000 meters a day to tie his shoes. Great, one commenter wrote, turning the Communist Party's most famous slogan against its leader. This is what serving the people looks like. Donald Trump flew home in 2017 marveling at the soldiers, at the height precision, at the spectacle. And he was right to be amazed. But what he was seeing was the visible layer. The choreography, the part they wanted him to see. The tunnels beneath the tunnels, the second teacup, the kneeling man with the gun. That part, he never got to see. Nobody does. Except the one man it's all designed to protect. And even he isn't sure he can trust it completely. Because that is the final truth about Xi Jinping's security. It is not a shield built to make him safe. It is a mirror built to reflect his power back at everyone who looks. And somewhere behind that mirror, a man sits with two cups. In a compound the tallest building in Beijing was seized to protect. Surrounded by people who are watched by the people watching them. In a country where the sky itself is a managed variable, wondering. As all men who build cages large enough to call kingdoms eventually wonder whether the lock is on the outside or the inside, you already know the answer. And that is why, no matter how many times they change the guard, rotate the chefs, seed the clouds, and sweep the room, the most guarded man on earth is never truly free. If this made you feel something, angry, unsettled, or just unable to look at power the same way again, then you are exactly who this channel exists for. We don't do comfortable. We do true. Subscribe and stay with us, because what we pull apart next might be closer to home than you think.